Call Allah Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shah by Hashem, Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well over the flock. Shalom and salutation to you brothers out here, pushing words of truth and sincerity. This is supersessionism. Supersessionism, another Edomite big word for replacement theology. Replacement theology is Christian doctrine, which asserts that the new covenant through Yahweh Shah supersedes the old covenant, which was exclusively with the Jewish people or the Jews. All right, so in studying Greece lately, I've come to find a lot of information on Judaism in the time of the Hellenistic period. Hellenistic period began from the, you could say, the death of Alexander the Great until the conquest of all the Greek city-states by the Roman Empire. All right, so here we have an article that discusses a little bit of Judaism. All right, it says basic beliefs of Judaism. Although the beginning of the Christian era, Judaism comprised of several different groups, certain basic beliefs were common to them all. Belief in one power, belief in the covenant, which was the Most High made with his people Israel, and belief in the foundation book of this covenant, the law and of Yahweh or the Torah. So all beliefs of the Bible and Bible-based beliefs stem back to those simple beliefs that there's one power, that the covenant was made between the Most High, Yahweh, and his people Israel. The belief in the book of the covenant, which is the law of Yahweh, or the Torah, which is the Torah. The covenant between God and Israel comprise duties and commitments which pertain to both parties. Yahweh committed himself to treat Israel in accordance with its special position as his own people and to teach the Israelites the principles of a good and blessed life. Israel made the commitment to be obedient to Yahweh and to live a life befitting the people of God. These principles are found in the Torah law of Moses, its teachings, its practical applications. The Torah also included directions concerning atonement for offenses committed so that the covenant might nevertheless remain in effect. All right, so during the time of the Lord, you had different Jewish groups. You had the Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, Zealots, and then you had the believers of the faith of Yahweh Shah, which here is called the Jesus movement. We know that the name of the Lord was in the Hebrew, it was in the Greek, and so his name was Yahweh Shai, which is he's the deliverer. The word or the term Jesus is erroneously described as the Lord's name. There was no letter J prior to during the time of the Greeks. During the time of the Lord himself, there was no letter J. Even if you go into the Greek, it's pronounced Isa, Uiseis, but that's just a title, a Greek transliteration of Yahweh Shah, which is translated into English Joshua. Yahweh Shah means he's the deliverer. All right, so this article just goes through all the different, but I want to get into the point of the diaspora. Diaspora means dispersion. The term was used for Jewish communities living outside Palestine. At the beginning of the Christian era, there were Jews living all over the Roman Empire and in the east beyond the frontiers of the empire. They lived in the country and in towns, and they came from all social classes and professions. Their customs were known everywhere, even if they were not always regarded favorably. On the other hand, their strict monotheism and high moral standards attracted many, and they often had influential patrons. So Israel dispersed. Israelites moved around. They went everywhere the Greek Empire took them. Everywhere where the Greek Hellenized Empire spread them. Really quick, let's get this precept. So I'm gonna start linking into the precepts now. This is Acts 9 and 29, 28. And he was with them coming and going out at Jerusalem. And he spake boldly in the name of the Lord, Yahushua, and disputed against the Grecians. Now on the left is the King James, on the right in the NLT, New Living Translation. I just want to point something out between these two texts. It says, and disputed against the Grecians. That's what the King James says, the Grecians. Automatically, we have been taught that the Grecians are so-called white people. And they're non-Jews. And for the sake of, to leave this, just to emphasize, we know the color of the Lord. It's dark skin, white woolly hair, skin like bronze. But the point, rather than to emphasize color in this matter right now, I'm just going to emphasize that the Grecians are believed to be non-Jews. Always non-Israelites. Or you could, if you want to throw the color back in there, what so-called white people. Grecians, right? Anything deriving with Greek in it, as a derivative of Greek in it, is considered to be so-called white people, non-Jews, according to the Bible, especially people who deal with the Bible. However, when you go to NLT on the Acts 9 and 29, you see here it says he debated with some Greek-speaking Jews. So it just takes that word and throws it right back into the category it's supposed to be in now. Greek-speaking Jew, what is that? That's a Hellenist Jew. What is that? See, the Greeks didn't call themselves Greeks. Never did. That term came from the Romans who conquered the Greeks. They called them Greeks. Before that, they called themselves Hellens. Helen. All right? And so the diaspora are the Jews that dispersed out of Palestine, out of this land mass, and ended up coming over to places dominated by Greek culture. Hellenistic Judaism was a form of Judaism in classical antiquity that combined Jewish religious tradition with elements of Greek culture until the fall of the Western Empire and early Muslim conquest and of the Eastern Mediterranean. The main centers of Hellenistic Judaism were Alexander in Egypt and Antioch in Syria. So we learned that the main centers for Hellenistic Jews was Alexandria in Egypt and Antioch in Syria, not Palestine, not Jerusalem, but you had Jews dwelling in Alexandria, Egypt, and Antioch. That was the main centers for Hellenistic Judaism, which is a form of Judaism that combined Jewish religious tradition with elements of Greek culture. That's all it was. And you know what they got named for that? Well, what they called those people? Because they had an element of Greek culture, they called them the Grecians. These were once again, Grecians is let's get it. The Grecians here. Hellenistes. Hellenistes derives from the word Hellen, which means Greek. A Hellenist, one who imitates the manners and customs or the worships of the Greeks and use the Greek tongue. Used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. They were not Greek by blood. They was Greek because the customs and the manners and the practices that they kept in the tongue in which they spoke was all Greek. And to anybody outside of Palestine, if you spoke and acted like a Greek during the time of the Hellenistic period, during the time of Hellenization, if you acted like a Greek person, they would call you a Grecian or a Greek, or mainly they call you a Hellenist. A Hellenist or Hellenistes or some form of Hellen, which means Greek. See? And it's used many times. It says down here, a Greek-speaking Jew. So as we read in the NLT, they was on point. The KJV says Grecian. We're supposed to be able to understand as we grow in this truth that just because you see the word Greek does not mean it's talking about another nation, another nationality. The diaspora or the Hellenization period of Greece was vast. It covered all of the Mediterranean Sea. 25 miles in on every coast touching the Mediterranean Sea was Hellenized, meaning it had Greek kings, Greek governors, Greek morals, Greek traditions, Greek speaking. All right, they spoke Greek in Jerusalem. They also spoke, you know, Hebrew, but they were also speaking Greek. It says to copy the manners of worship of the Greeks or to use the Greek language. That's all it took to be a Hellenist. It said one who imitates the manners and customs of the worships of the Greeks in the Greek tongue. All right. It says the name adhered to them even after they had embraced Christianity. So even after they took in Christianity, Acts 6:1, the name Grecian or Greek still embraced them. Let's get that. Acts 6:1. Let's see if it could transfer me over. All right, let's go back here. Okay, here we go. Acts 6:1. And in those days, let's get it like this. It ain't working. We'll take it back to Acts 6. Bear with me. Acts 6:1. But as the believers rapidly multiplied, I'm reading the KJ. Let's read the KJV. And in those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews. So it makes you think that these are two different nationalities. You know, the Greeks, Alexander, against the Hebrews, Moses and them. Nah, these are talking about the same people. See, when you go, once again, that term Grecian, even after these people, these Hellenists that was Hellenized Jews adopted Christianity or adopted the faith of Yahushua, they were still considered to be Grecians because of their customs, because of the way they dressed, because of how they spoke that Greek tongue. Once again, and in those days when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews because their widows were neglected in the daily administration. On the right side, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to go to the translation comparisons and go through a few of them. See, King James Version has Grecians there. New King James Version has Hellenists. NASB has Hellenistic Jews. You see how we go from Grecians to Jews now? Because that's the truth. NLT, Greek-speaking Jews, Grecian Jews, Hellenists. This one says Yevanian, Yehudim, Greek Jews. Yevanian, Greek Jews. All right, RSV says the Hellenists. The Latin Vulgate says the Grecorum. All right, Grecians. So depending on what Bible, the Hellenist, depending on what Bible you're looking at, it might say Hellenistic Jews, it might say Grecians, or it might say Greek-speaking Jews. The point is to go deep and to understand that it's dealing with Israelites who are part of the diaspora that weren't living in Hellenized Palestine at the time. And so they more adopted the custom, even though they were Jews, they adopted that Greek tongue. There were probably 2, 3, 4 generations of speaking Greek already. You know, and they were called Grecians. Even after they started confessing that they believe in the Messiah, they were still called Grecians. Now, I think there was something else in Acts 6 I wanted. When you go look at this, Acts 6 and 5, it says, Acts 6 and 4, but we will give ourselves continually to prayer and to the ministry of the word. And the same pleased the whole multitude, and they showed Stephen, a man full of faith and of the Holy Spirit. Stephen is a Greek name. Stephanos, and Philip, a Greek name, and Prochorus, and Nicanor, and Timon, and Parmenas, Parmenas, and Nicholas. Nicholas, um, it means victor of the people. It's a Greek term. A proselyte of Antioch. So you see here, even in Antioch, when you go over here to the New Living Translation, it says an earlier convert to the Jewish faith. So some of them were just complete um, Hellenistic Jews that went 100% into the doctrine of Greece, and then they converted back to the Jewish faith because they was of that body. Are you gonna have people that could, throughout history that have tried to convert, and other nationalities that have converted to the ways of the Jews? You do. That's why you have a whole faith or a whole body of people over there in the land of Israel that call themselves Orthodox Jews. They're all over New York, in which you have Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, which you have all types of people claiming to be the original Jews because of this Hellenization period. And then you have here in Acts 11 and 20, where am I? 20, Acts 11 and 26 says, and when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch, because we just read about Antioch. Antioch, once again, if you're paying attention, it said the main hubs of Hellenistic Jews was Alexandria, Egypt, and Antioch, which is in Syria, I believe, or Turkey. Let's see here where it was. It was in Antioch is in Syria, now Turkey. These are the two hubs of Hellenistic Jews. And it says, and it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first at Antioch. So the beginning of what you call Christianity began with the disciples at Antioch. The disciples at Antioch, the converts at Antioch, the believers from Antioch were Hellenized Jews dwelling there, as we read here. Hellenistic Judaism. The main centers of Hellenistic Judaism were Alexandria, Egypt, and Antioch, Syria, and two Greek urban settlements in the Middle East and in North African region, both founded at the end of the 4th century BCE in the wake of the conquest of Alexander the Great. Hellenistic Judaism also existed in Jerusalem during the Second Temple period, where there was conflict between Hellenizers and traditionalists. The major literary product of the contact of the Second Temple Judaism and Hellenistic culture is the Septuagint translation of the Hebrew Bible in the Biblical Hebrew and Biblical Aramaic to Koine Greek, specifically Jewish Koine Greek. We had our own form of Greek. Mentionable are also the philosophic and ethical treatises of Philo. Skipping down, Hellenism. The conquest of Alexander in the late 4th century BCE spread Greek culture and colonization. If you want to read more about Greek, Hellenized Jerusalem, or Hellenized Judea, you read 1st and 2nd Maccabees. So it was Greek culture and colonization. They colonized us with their culture. They colonized this whole entire region. This map is vast. Okay, Alexander the Great went all the way to India, modern day Afghanistan. And mainly, where was the areas in which they had the most dominant culture was within the Mediterranean Sea area. A few miles off the coast of everywhere touching the Mediterranean Sea. Alexander himself starting in Macedon. His father Philip, the second. And then Alexander's four generals took over. The most notable was the king of the north, which was Seleucus, and the Antiochus line. And the king of the south was the line of Ptolemy. Ptolemaic dynasty here in the land of Alexandria, which is close to Memphis, if I'm not mistaken. Here you go, Cyrene, where you hear about Philip the Cyrene, North Africa. All right, here you go. Where's Antiochus? I mean, somewhere in Syria. Here's the Damascus, where Paul was riding to, not far from Jerusalem. All dominated during this whole time. It was dominated by the Greco-Roman customs. Mainly, these people were still speaking Greek. Ephesus over here, Athens. Take a look at the map. Here's where Paul was from, Tarsus in Cilicia. Phrygia, Pamphylia, they're all written in the scriptures because these are the places where Israelites migrated to and formed colonies, or inside these already established colonies, they began to speak Greek and had Greek customs, like in Alexandria and like in Antioch. So the conquest of Alexander the Great led to this process of cultural change called Hellenization over non-Greek lands, including the Levant, which the Levant is another word for Palestine, this area where Israel resides. This gave rise to the Hellenistic period, see, which sought to create a common or universal culture in the Alexandrian Empire based on that of 5th century Athens, along with the fusion of Near East culture. So it was a fusion of cultures, but it was mainly a period where Greek culture reigned supreme. It says the period is characterized by a new wave of Greek colonization, which established Greek cities and kingdoms in Asia and Africa, the most famous being Alexandria in Egypt. New cities were established composed of colonists who came from different parts of the Greek world and not from a specific metropolis or mother city as before. These Jews living in countries west of the Levant formed the Hellenistic diaspora. Every Israelite west of Israel, west of the land of Israel, formed the Hellenistic diaspora. These are all the places in which Paul and Peter were going. Barnabas, they were all at the Hellenistic diaspora and countries where Jews were, Israelites. The Egyptian diaspora is well known of these. It witnessed close ties indeed to the economic integration of Judea with the Ptolemaic kingdom, ruled from Alexandria, and the friendly relations which existed between the royal court and the leaders of the Jewish community. Let's go down. Jewish life both in Judea and the diaspora was influenced by the culture and language of Hellenism. So even during the time of, from before Paul even till after Paul, there was a heavy influence of culture and language by the Hellenistic control, the spread of Hellenism. The Greeks viewed Jewish culture favorably, while vice versa, Hellenism gained adherents among the Jews. So Israelites we didn't appreciate at all Hellenism. Because when you go back to Hellenism is a worship of polytheism, many gods. All right, and their gods do heinous acts at times, including bestiality and homosexuality and whatnot. And this is the culture that they were bringing around the world. It says, while Hellenism has sometimes been presented under the influence of Second Maccabees, see? It says here, as a threat of assimilation diametrically opposed to Jewish tradition. So the fight, while some of the Jews in Jerusalem were seeking Paul's life and sought to kill him, I think that's Acts 9. They wanted Paul dead. Verse Acts 9:23, and after that many days were fulfilled, the Jews took counsel to kill him. Why? Verse above, But Paul increased in the more in strength and confounded the Jews which dwelt at Damascus, proving that this is very Yahushua, meaning proving that the Lord is the Messiah. And they sought to kill him in normal fashion of some of these, our people, man. Who basically, if you didn't adhere to the law as they taught it, you needed to be destroyed and put to death. They didn't believe in the Messiah. They didn't believe in that atonement for the sin. They just thought you was a heretic, in which Paul at one point in time sought to kill the believers of Yahushua as well. Except in this very chapter, Yahushua corrects him and sets him right by blinding him. It says, then the disciples took him by night and let him down by the wall in a basket. So we understand that there was a feud between the Hellenists, because they was all Hellenists by that point. They were all Hellenists, pretty much. It's just some adhered more to the older traditions, and some believed in the Messiah. That's it. Even to this day, you got some of our people who adhere to the oldest of older traditions, which is trying to keep in practice, which they can't, all of the law, which they can't. And then you have our beliefs, which we believe that the law is holy and law is pure if kept 100%, which it cannot be. And so we all fall short, and we're in need of a savior. And so there's a feud between us and them, just like in the ancient times. But here you have it where Hellenism brought a Greek way of life to Jerusalem. It says adaptation to Hellenic culture did not require compromise of Jewish precepts or conscience. When a Greek gymnasium was introduced into Jerusalem, it was installed by a Jewish priest. And other priests soon engaged in wrestling matches in the palaestra, which the wrestling match was done naked. Then plainly did not reckon such activities as undermining their priestly duties. It got crazy out there. All right, but that's pretty much the basis of this, what I wanted to go into today, Lord willing. This video was edifying for the flock. As always, till next time, shalom.